welcome back to it. It is your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso Live, right here on SABC3. Now, we all know that there are many moments in life when we need to make a good impression, and sometimes we need a few tips to get us through those really tricky situations. So now we've seen the presenter search on 3 contestants have their time to shine on screen with presenting, but you can also have a time to shine in your everyday life with Orbit Gum. Now, we've got you covered if you're wondering what the best way to shine in the workplace is, and then we've got HR Executive Linda Roos from Uber to give you some really important tips on how you can exceed expectations and excel in the office. Linda, it's so awesome to see you today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Linda, you know, we all know this. I think we've seen this happen and play out many times in our lives. It's one thing to fulfill your workplace requirements, but it's another thing to exceed expectations. These two things are completely different. Why is it so important and so beneficial to both yourself and your employer to be able to perform and go above and beyond your expectations?
So we live in a hyper-competitive world, right? For organizations to compete with other brands, they have to go beyond what everybody expects as a given. And likewise, you as an employee are competing against other talent in your organization. So what used to be good service and great product, those are things that are now accepted as a given. You can't just do the minimum anymore.
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
So the Human Resources Department, the HR department, and everybody loves this department, everyone's favorite department, is tasked with regularly reviewing people's performance. In which areas, then the question is, what areas are employees typically reviewed and critiqued, and why is HR, why do they pick these points to monitor our performance?
So it's actually a common misnomer that HR reviews performance. It's actually your line manager that reviews performance. And the two things that your line manager will be looking for will be how you perform in terms of the job that you do, how well you do your job, and how well you behave in the workplace. So it's no good being a kind of, we call it a brilliant jerk, where you do a really great job, but you walk all over everyone on your way to the top.
Yeah.
Or a useless sweetie pie, which means that you're a lovely person, but you don't really perform very well.
Okay, so what are some of the ways that people can optimize their performance and make sure that they're not a useless sweetie pie?
So I think the first thing you have to do is you have to strike a balance between the way you perform and the way you show up and behave at work. The second thing that I think is really important is for you to understand what you're really naturally good at and focus on strengthening those things, not focusing on your weaknesses. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't focus on them at all, but you just need to do enough to get by.
Yeah.
And rather focus on working on those natural talents that you've got and strengthening those. Another thing that I will always say to people is put your hand up. So often you'll get projects which are either a little bit yucky or very daunting, and you'd be nervous to put your hand up when your manager says, who wants to take this on? Because you're either not confident to do it or because nobody really wants to take that project on. Put your hand up. There will always be somebody to support you, and if it's a really yucky project, take it on anyway and do it to the best of your ability.
What's your one really essential tip for people to be able to put their best foot forward and really show up in that way?
I think there's no substitute for hard work, and you have to go beyond, what is expected, what is the norm.
So you mentioned there's no substitute for hard work, go beyond the norm.
Correct.
Do you find that that's a difficult thing for people to do in a competitive space that we find ourselves in?
It certainly can be very difficult. I think you've got to ask yourself all the time, did I do that to my best ability? Could I have done that better?
So maybe it's not about waiting for that performance review. You kind of have
Absolutely
to review
not.
yourself as you go
Correct.
along. Linda, thank you so much.
you.
Always such a joy chatting to you. Now, step into the limelight and put your best foot forward. It's your time to shine with Orbit Gum. And remember to watch Presenter Search on 3, the Expresso edition, every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC3, where this week we will see the behind the scenes of what the presenter hopefuls experienced during their live takeover last week, Thursday, right here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show.
It's your time to shine with Presenter Search on 3 and Orbit Gum.